Happy, happy, happy July. Good morning. We're in July. Well, it's almost the end of July now. And it's time for my second vlog, which is just crazy because I feel so awkward. But for those of you that watched the first vlog, thank you so much. I am surprised that anybody even watched it. So I appreciate you watching it. If you haven't checked it out, I'll add the link below. And it's just a little bit of my ramblings and a little bit of behind the scenes of what I do here. And it's a little bit of just my, kooky life outside of art. So thank you for joining me, for watching the first one and for joining me today. Now before we go on, I wanted to share some of the samples that I created for this month, for the things that were going on this month. I have been watching and totally obsessed with this this YouTuber called CC Creations. She does a lot of watercolor, and she is just, like when you see somebody and you're like, wow, that person just seems like a really nice, genuine, kind person. That's what I feel when I see this lady and her videos. And so she has a vlog also, which I'm obsessed with. Just because she's so down to earth and it feels like you're having a conversation with her. But one of the things that she does is she will show some of her work that she's been working on. She does vlogs a lot, I think once a week or something. So I do have some samples to show you of some of the stuff that I've been working on. It's a little bit more than what she does in her videos, but I thought I find it really neat to see her work, and so hopefully you guys will be entertained while I show you some of the samples of my stuff. So the first thing is my stencils. I came out with these stencils, and again, they're my Geo shapes. So this is Geo Hex Hearts and Stars, Geo Squares, and Geo Triangles, and these are all from Stencil Girl products. And they also, I made them specifically to be 6x6. Because I wanted them to go with my 6x6 gel press mono printing plate. I have the plate in different sizes, but I always tend to gravitate towards the 6x6, so I wanted these to be specifically that size. And some of the samples, this is a journal page using the Geo Squares. This is another one using the Geo Squares. I love what this one says. It says, give them something to talk about. I don't know, it's like they're all staring at you and you're like, you know what, you want to stare? I'll give you something to stare around. Okay, anyway. This is Geo Triangles background. Most of these are done on black discbound journal pages from Joggles, which I am obsessed with. Cannot live without. It's like one of those things like, where have you been all my life? I love black discbound journal pages. Okay, this is Geo Triangles, another sample. Another journal page using Geo Hex. This right here is one of my foam stamps from joggles.com. And I just think it's really sweet. Geo Hex. There is just something about the gold, just simple gold on a black background. Yeah. This one is Geo Hex, kind of tough to see. Geo Squares. This is one of my little drawings. And she says, good and true. And this is another one. This is not a discbound journal page, but it's just a little bit larger. And then this is a discbound journal page, and this is in the video that I created for the release. I used a gel press petite, as well as my Geo Square stencil. I also used a piece of matte Duralar because the background was so busy and I wanted something that would separate the text but not block out the background, and so matte Duralar worked perfect for that. And so those are some of the samples of my new stencils. And again, if you have time, be sure to check out that video. It's somewhere in my playlist for the stencil release, because I show you how I made that one journal page, which is kind of fun and super easy to do. I also had another scheduled video for graphics vellum. And vellum, you know, it's one of those things that I don't use very often, but I received a pack, and it was a multi-pack of vellum, and it had like different types of vellum in it, and I was like, well, this is kind of neat, because I think I've always thought of like I've only tried really one type of vellum, and so it was kind of nice to see the different styles and everything. And so I ended up making a little note card set that was inspired by a friend that had given me a note set, and it was a handmade envelope that was filled to the rim with just handmade little bits of paper, as well as a little note, which I just went gaga over because I have a thing for handwritten notes. Every time somebody writes me a handwritten note, I savor it and I love it. And I end up displaying them in my office because I love them. And so the video that I created using the vellum was inspired by my friend's gift. And so I created a little envelope, which is made out of gold vellum. And then I created little bits to go in the envelope, which is a handwritten letter, just a little paper bit. This is using the vellum as well as some embossing powder. This is using some vellum that has been embossed in a embossing machine. And then this little piece right here, which is just different layers of vellum, and it also has computer graphics on the top. And so that was the other video that I did for this month, and I ended up making this set for another friend, and hopefully if you watch that video, you become inspired to make your own little set for your friend or for somebody special, because it's really nice to be able to receive a gift like that, but it's also really nice to give it. I also had a video scheduled for a new product by Marabou, which is their alcohol inks. And wow, okay, so one of those products that I just could not stop using. I was really fortunate because I was able to use these products way in advance for my filming for Make It Artsy last month. And so I had the opportunity to play with them pretty early. But it wasn't until I knew that I had this video coming up that I really said, you know what, I'm just gonna play. And play I did. I could not stop, to the point where I was like, I need to stop because I got other things to do, And so the colors are just super, super vibrant. If you can see some of the colors that they come in. I mean, just super vibrant. They come in 22 transparent colors, 4 metallics, a rainbow additive, and an extender. And yeah, you'll see when I show you some of my samples, you're gonna be like, holy cajolies. They're vibrant. So this is one thing that I made, and this is just me playing around and I became obsessed with the color magenta. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Isn't that beautiful? And so this was in the video that I created. I ended up creating just multiple projects because I couldn't stop. So I took that flower and I just cut it up and I made it a little dimensional, because just because you're working on a flat surface doesn't mean it has to stay flat, right? So this is another project that I made. Now these are all on white craft plastic. So it's similar to a Yupo paper, but so it's a plastic sheet. It's thin, it's, you know, very, very flexible. I have scratched into it. It does not get damaged at all. And it takes the inks beautifully. So, so this is what I've worked on all of these, most of them, no, all of them I worked on white craft plastic. And this is the black color of the alcohol ink, but you can see it's not like black, it's like a midnight black. It's just beautiful and gorgeous. And so this one actually says the word ARTEMIS, which is going to be the second mission back to the moon. How cool is that? Okay. This is another project that I worked on with the inks, and I knew that I wanted to try the inks in resin, and so I was playing around with them and I made just some resin samples with the colors just to kind of see how vibrant they were. And then I started getting a little crazy and started adding some other things in the resin. Like this one right here actually has some white ink in it. It's just regular ink. And I did not like the way the back came out, but man, the front was just super cool and it was textured. So I really liked that it was textured, but I wanted to do something else to this front. So I used some StazOn pigment ink, added an image, and then I added another layer of resin. And so it still has that texture, but it's smooth now. Very cool. This is another one that's like that. Again, all using the alcohol inks. This one actually has the rainbow color in it and an additional layer of resin on top. Don't like the back, but I love the front. And you can kind of see how beautifully vibrant they are, even in the resin. So much so, hold on. The first time that I tried it on the craft plastic and I added some resin to it, I was like, holy crackerjacks, that's really vibrant. And I was like, well, that's, let me just test that out. And so I took another brand of alcohol ink, which is this one, and then I put some Marabou alcohol ink, and then I just added resin to half of it. And you can see that the Marabou does not fade in the resin, which makes me very happy. And that's one of the reasons why I always kind of stayed away of, using the alcohol inks, because I thought that they always kind of faded, and I was right. So it's nice to see that this brand does not fade. And here's another one to show you. So I have like tons of these. I'm not going to show them all to you, but I just went a little crazy making a whole bunch of little samples. And these are some jewelry pieces that I made using the white craft plastic, and then just putting them in some bezel. See how nice and vibrant that is? And then covering them in resin. This actually has 2 layers of resin because it has the white craft plastic in the back with the alcohol inks, and then a layer of resin, and then that cured for 24 hours. Then I added some rub-ons, and then I added an additional layer of resin. So this one is similar to that. This one has, there we go. This one has the rainbow additive. This is just from a mold that I added some of the alcohol inks to. I added them, I filled up the mold with resin and then added the inks to the back. Pretty cool. And then finally this piece right here, which is again on white craft plastic. Then I glued it onto this little house, and then I added a layer of resin. Super vibrant, right? So those are some of the projects that I have been working on for this month. And oh, and I also did see, I did this video also, which is using my one of my foam stamps that came out with joggles.com, and I just did a quick little video on this because my hubby always has these pieces, like extra pieces of lumber laying around, and I mean, you can't not pick it up, right? I mean, you have to do something with it. So I made I just did a little quick video tutorial on that, and I think that was it for my samples. I hope that you enjoy. Thanks for sticking around this long, by the way. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of the video. It just shows a little bit of the behind the scenes of what's going on here in the Kerr household. And yeah, that's it. Sit back, enjoy, I hope. One thing about living in Florida is that during the summertime, it's almost like wintertime up north, because in the wintertime you're inside most of the time, and the summertime here in Florida you're inside most of the time, unless you're going in the pool or you're doing something that's refreshing, because it is hot, hot, hot during the summers. So I've been enjoying the pool, trying to get in maybe a couple, like 20 minutes a day, just doing some exercises, and really just enjoying the summer mornings, because once 3 o'clock hits, it is just rain almost every day, and it can get a little tiring. So it's nice to get some sun on my face in the morning. We are huge Stranger Things fans, and we were waiting for July 4th to come so that we could enjoy finally season 3 of Stranger Things, and it did not disappoint. We didn't get to watch the whole show on the 4th. We watched a couple of the shows, and then the next couple of days watched a little bit. But we kind of lucked out. We were able to enjoy that on the 4th, and then on the 5th they had the fireworks that we go to every year, which is just, we always get a really great spot, and it was just another nice 4th of July. Introducing my new stencils inspired by geometric art. Geo Stencils by Stencil Girl Products. Geo Hex Hearts and Stars, Squares, and Triangles. I then use a white Sharpie to outline the butterflies and fill in the black areas with the echoes of the same shape. Okay, this is going to sound strange, but I rarely go to a craft store and buy craft supplies. What I mean is, I don't normally buy things that I use on a regular basis, like paper or paint or markers or ink or stamps. I actually like going to a craft store and looking in the other departments that you might not normally go into if you're a mixed media artist. I love going into the baking department and the wood department and the fabric department and What else? I mean, there's the home decor department. There's so many things outside of just the basic art supplies that we can incorporate into our art. So for me, one of the biggest joys is finding something that has delicious texture like that and figuring out what to do with it. Okay, hubby is mowing the lawn, but I had to come and tell you that I just found out. So I just found out just now, this memento, that my work is going to be featured on the next Somerset Studio magazine, and it's going to be on the cover, which is super, super, super exciting. And I am so thankful for the powers that be over at Sampington for choosing my work to be on the cover. I cannot tell you how much it means to me, because I am constantly questioning whether or not this is the right path. Should I be doing something else? Am I any good? I mean, all of these questions of self-doubt, they constantly come up no matter what what you accomplish. It's really nice to just get some validation and some recognition, I guess, even though I've been on the cover before and it always means the world to me. It just never gets old, and it just, it's just a happy reminder to say, okay, you're on the right path. That's all. I love using faces in my journal pages, but I don't want to spend the money on new magazines that I'm going to cut up. So I end up buying old cuttery books on eBay for like $2 or $3 a pop. A lot of times they're big books and the paper quality is excellent. Now, even though I limit my social media interactions, I still feel like I am chained to the computer. Now this month, a new opportunity to design some products came up, which meant that I had to tackle my nemesis, which is Photoshop. This is me busy at work, but let me tell you, it was tense. Photoshop is one of those things that's just constantly laughing at me because I just can't seem to get it straight. July's sky was full of beautiful things. We had quite a few thunderstorms, which put on an excellent show, as well as some beauties. I got to see Vega a couple of times, as well as Saturn and Jupiter. And of course, we had a magnificent full moon in the month of July. Now, as I said before, the ARTEMIS is the next mission on the way to the moon and beyond. This is especially poignant because this month we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the first moon landing. We also got to watch a Soyuz rocket leaving from the Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. It's carrying 3 astronauts to the International Space Station. I'm not gonna lie, I get chills every time. I like to consider myself a possibilitarian, and space exploration exemplifies exactly that. This is a project that I created for the alcohol link video, but I ended up not including it. It's really simply just adding the alcohol inks to this mold, which is for a book cover, and then I filled it with clear resin and some glitter. Now it did actually stain the mold, but it didn't damage it in any way, but the colors were still super vibrant and beautiful. This is probably the most common question I get when it comes to resin. How do I add resin to something that doesn't have any walls? So after I mix up a batch of resin, I let it sit for a good 10 to 15 minutes. By this point, it's thickening up, and I just add some to the center of my project, and I push it outward with the popsicle stick right up to the edge. Because it's starting to thicken up, it doesn't go all the way over. And that always seems to work for me. We all just happened to be home and decided to make it a day for Universal. even though it was super hot and the wait time was still pretty long for Hagrid's roller coaster, we decided to go anyway, and it turned out to be a pretty fun day. And we got to ride Hagrid's after almost 2 hours, but it was so worth it. This is the queue line for the Hagrid's ride, and one of the reasons why we all love going to Universal Studios is because a lot of times you feel like you're actually in the movies, and this was no exception. The queue line and the sets were just absolutely unbelievable.
Roller coasters. Well, anyway, they did those dramatic dips and dives. It's so satisfying. Oh, especially when you go up and there's the drop at the building.
I recently got a new shipment from Wow Studio, a whole bunch of chipboard, and I can't wait to play with all of it. But whenever I get something new or I get a large quantity of something new, I do try to store it right away. So I have these bins for small items, and then I use larger ones for the larger pieces, and I always make sure that I use my favorite tool, which is my label maker. It's the only way I can keep track of everything. Now I do have some new product tutorials coming up, product assessments, using this Delicata metallic ink pads and some embossing powder from Imagine Crafts. So I recently received a not so nice message on social media, and I am always open to criticism as long as it's constructive and somebody is just genuinely trying to help. But if somebody is just being mean, I really have a hard time with it because they don't know me, and yet they feel like they can easily hide behind a computer screen, and that's just not right. Now, the truth is that there are multiple versions of me, and they're all unfolding at the same time. The seeker, the curious, the creative, the goober, a whole bunch of versions, the forgetful, the lost, the found, and they're all equally important, all reflections of lessons learned. Most people won't get some or all of the versions of me, and that's perfectly okay. The truth is, it's taken a lifetime to get here, and what you think of me has little value. So a piece of advice to myself and to any of you that have received messages or comments that from people that are just trying to tear you down instead of build you up. Instead of letting the words have a negative impact, let them fuel your fire instead, and let them build another great version of yourself into becoming.